The ship Starbound Unity moved slowly through the dark space between stars. Captain HFY stood on the bridge, his forearms crossed behind his back as he watched the screens. The ship was home to many different alien races, all working together to explore new worlds and find new life. "Captain," called Science Officer Lorenis from her station. Her blue skin glowed softly as she worked. "We are picking up something strange." HFY walked over to her with his long, careful steps. His people, the Corthex, were known for being smart and careful. They never rushed into anything without thinking first. "What do you see?" he asked. "There is a small ship out there. It looks very old and damaged. I think someone might be inside." The captain looked at the screen. The small ship was spinning slowly in space, dark and quiet. It looked nothing like the ships his people made, or any of the other races he knew. Medical Officer Veltar came to the bridge. His people, the Zinthari, were peaceful and kind. They spent their lives helping others and healing the sick. Veltar was tall and thin, with gentle eyes and soft voice. "Should we bring it aboard?" Veltar asked. "If someone is hurt, I can help them." Captain HFY thought about this. Finding new life was exciting, but it could also be dangerous. Still, they could not leave someone to die in space. "Yes," he said, "but be careful. We do not know what we will find." The crew worked together to bring the small ship into their cargo bay. When they opened it up, they found something none of them had ever seen before. Inside was a strange creature, sleeping in a cold metal box. The creature looked very different from all of them. It had only 2 arms and 2 legs. Its skin was a light brown color and it had dark hair on the top of its head. It was much smaller than most of them, but something about it made them feel uneasy. "Is it alive?" asked Captain HFY. Veltar checked his medical scanner. "Yes, but it is in some kind of deep sleep. I think this box keeps it alive while it sleeps. We should wake it up slowly." They moved the creature to the medical bay. Veltar worked carefully to wake it up. After a few hours, the creature's eyes opened. They were brown like dirt, and they moved quickly around the room. The creature sat up fast, faster than any of them expected. Its head turned left and right, looking at everything. When it saw the aliens around it, it did not scream or run. Instead, it just watched them with those quick brown eyes. "Hello," said Veltar in the common language that most space travelers used. "Do you understand me?" The creature nodded. "Yes," it said. Its voice was deeper than Veltar expected. "Where am I?" "You are on our ship," Captain HFY said, stepping forward. "We found you floating in space. What is your name?" "Jake Morrison," the creature said. It tried to stand up and the alien stepped back. Jake was shorter than most of them, but the way he moved made them nervous. Every movement was quick and sure, like a hunter. "Where are you from, Jake Morrison?" asked Lorenis. "Earth," Jake said. He looked around the room again. "How long was I asleep?" "We do not know," said the captain. "Your ship was damaged. We could not tell how long you were floating out there." Jake nodded and rubbed his head. "The last thing I remember was the engine breaking down. I got into the sleep box hoping someone would find me." He looked at them with curiosity. "What are your names?" The aliens looked at each other. This creature, this Jake, seemed calm about meeting them. Most new species were afraid or excited when they first met aliens, but Jake just seemed interested, like meeting them was normal. "I am Captain HFY, the captain said. "This is Medical Officer Veltar and Science Officer Lorenis." "Nice to meet you," Jake said. He tried to stand up again, and this time they let him, but they watched him carefully. Jake was not very tall, but the way he stood made him look strong. His shoulders were wide, and his arms and legs looked powerful. When he moved, there was no wasted motion. Everything he did looked like it had a purpose. "Are you hungry?" asked Veltar. He was trying to be kind, but his voice shook a little. "Yes, thank you," Jake said. "I could also use some water if you have it." They brought Jake to the dining area. The other crew members stopped what they were doing and stared at him. Jake did not seem to notice. He sat down at a table and waited. When they brought him food, Jake looked at it carefully. What kind of meat is this? He asked. It is not meat, said Veltar. We do not eat animals. This is made from plants. Jake looked surprised. Really? All of you? He pointed around the room. None of you eat meat? No, said Lyranus. Most intelligent species stopped eating animals long ago. It is not necessary, and it is not kind. Jake nodded slowly. On Earth, we eat both plants and animals. We have to. There are lots of dangerous animals there, and some of them try to eat us. The aliens looked at each other with worry. Dangerous animals that tried to eat people? What kind of world was this Earth? Tell us about your world, said Captain Zexhai. Jake smiled, and when he did, the aliens could see his teeth. They were white and sharp, especially the pointed ones on the sides. They looked like the teeth of a meat-eater, a predator. Earth is beautiful, Jake said. We have big oceans full of fish and mountains covered with trees. There are deserts and forests and grasslands. But yes, it can be dangerous. We have bears and wolves and big cats. In the ocean, there are sharks and other things that can hurt you. And your people live with these dangerous animals? Asked Veltar, his voice getting higher. Sure, Jake said, like it was nothing special. You just have to be careful and know what you are doing. My dad taught me to hunt when I was young. My mom taught me which plants were safe to eat and which ones would make me sick. The aliens stared at him. This creature, this Jake, talked about living with deadly animals like it was normal. What kind of world made people live like that? Jake kept eating and talking. I am a botanist. I study plants. I was traveling to a new colony to help them grow food. That is why I was in space. A botanist, repeated Lyranus. You study plants, but you also hunt animals? Well, I know how to hunt, Jake said. Everyone on Earth learns basic survival skills. You never know when you might need them. Captain Zexhai felt a chill run through his body. This creature looked small and friendly, but it talked about hunting and surviving like a trained warrior. What kind of species was this? What kind of world made people learn to kill just to stay alive? As Jake finished his meal, the aliens realized they might have brought something very dangerous onto their ship. This Jake Morrison seemed nice enough, but everything about him suggested he was built for fighting and surviving in ways they could not imagine. They were beginning to think they had not rescued a lost traveler. They were beginning to think they had brought a monster aboard their ship. The next morning, Captain Zexhai called a meeting in the main conference room. All the senior officers came. They sat around a long table, whispering to each other about the strange creature they had found. Jake walked into the room and looked around. He seemed relaxed, but the aliens noticed how his eyes moved quickly, checking every corner and exit. It was like he was looking for danger or planning escape routes. Please sit down, Jake Morrison, said Captain Zexhai, pointing to a chair at one end of the table. Jake sat down, but he did not lean back or get comfortable. He sat straight, ready to move quickly if needed. The aliens found this very disturbing. We want to learn more about you and your people, the captain said. We have never met humans before. Sure, Jake said with a smile. What do you want to know? Science Officer Lyranus opened a data pad. First, tell us about your world. How many people live on Earth? About 8 billion now, I think, Jake said. Maybe more. The population keeps growing. The aliens looked shocked. 8 billion. That was more people than lived on 10 of their worlds combined. What kind of world could support so many creatures like Jake? 8 billion, repeated Veltar slowly. That is very many. Yeah, Earth is pretty crowded, Jake agreed. That is why we started building colonies on other worlds. We need more space. Commander Kolran, a military officer from the warrior race called Valens, leaned forward. Your people expand to new worlds. Are you conquerors? Jake looked confused. Conquerors? No, we just need places to live and grow food. Most of the colonies are for farming or mining. But you said you learned to hunt, Kolran said. All of your people learn to fight? Well, not fight exactly, Jake said. But yeah, most kids learn basic stuff. How to defend themselves. How To survive if they get lost, things like that. Children learn to fight? Asked Veltar, his voice shaking. Jake laughed, and the sound made several aliens jump. It is not really fighting. More like games, I guess. We play sports, we have competitions. Kids might learn martial arts or play war games. War games? Lyranes wrote this down quickly. Children play games about war? Sure, Jake said. Laser tag, paintball, video games about battles, it's just fun. Kids like to pretend to be soldiers or heroes. The aliens looked at each other with growing fear. On their worlds, children played with toys and learned to be kind to others. They learned art and music and how to help their families. But human children played war games and learned to fight. Tell us about these sports, said Captain HFY. Jake's eyes lit up. Oh, we have lots of great sports. Football, where you try to carry a ball to the end of a field while the other team tries to stop you. Boxing, where two people punch each other until one gives up. Wrestling, where you try to pin the other person to the ground. With each sport Jake described, the aliens became more horrified. These humans entertained themselves by fighting each other. They enjoyed watching people get hurt. We also have car racing, Jake continued. Drivers go really fast in dangerous cars. Sometimes they crash, but that is part of the excitement. People enjoy watching others get hurt? Asked Veltar. Well, we try to make it safe, Jake said. But yeah, there is always some risk. That is what makes it exciting. Lyranes was writing everything down. To her, this proved that humans were a violent species that enjoyed pain and danger. What kind of creatures found entertainment in watching others suffer? What about your history? Asked Captain HFY. Tell us about your people's past. Jake thought for a moment. We have had lots of wars, unfortunately. Big ones, small ones. Humans have been fighting each other for thousands of years. But we have also built amazing things. Cities, art, music, technology. You have been fighting for thousands of years? Colron asked. Yeah, but it is getting better, Jake said. We fight less now than we used to. Most of the fighting these days is smaller conflicts, not big wars between countries. The aliens could not believe what they were hearing. This species had been at war for thousands of years, and Jake thought things were getting better because they only had small wars now. Do you have weapons? Asked Lyranes. Of course, Jake said. Every country has weapons to defend itself, and people have personal weapons too, for protection or hunting. Personal weapons? Veltar whispered. Sure. Guns, knives, bows for hunting. Some people collect swords or other old weapons. My neighbor Carl has a whole room full of guns. He likes to go shooting at targets for fun. The room went quiet. These humans not only had weapons, but they collected them and used them for entertainment. They shot at things for fun. Jake, said Captain HFY carefully. Do you have weapons? Jake nodded. I have a hunting rifle back home and a few knives, for camping and stuff. Nothing special. Nothing special? The aliens looked at each other in terror. This creature, who seemed so calm and friendly, casually owned tools designed to kill. What do you do for entertainment on your world? Asked Lyranes, hoping to hear about something peaceful. Lots of things, Jake said happily. We watch movies and TV shows. Some people like action movies with lots of fighting and explosions. Others like horror movies that are supposed to scare you. You watch fighting and horror for fun? Asked Veltar. Yeah, it is exciting. We also have extreme sports, like jumping out of airplanes or climbing mountains. Some people swim with sharks or wrestle alligators. They swim with sharks? Colron could not hide his shock. Sure, lots of people do it. It is dangerous, but that is what makes it thrilling. Some people climb mountains that are so high they can barely breathe. Others go deep under the ocean where the pressure could crush them. Jake kept talking about human activities, and with each one, the aliens became more convinced that they were dealing with a species of warriors. These humans did dangerous things for fun. They watched violence for entertainment. They taught their children to fight from a young age. On your world, said Captain HFY slowly, are there different types of humans? Some who fight, and some who do peaceful work. Well, yeah, people have different jobs, Jake said. Soldiers, police, firefighters, doctors, teachers, farmers, but everyone learns basic survival skills. You never know when you might need them. Everyone learns to survive, repeated Lyranus, writing quickly. Sure. What if there is a natural disaster? What if you get lost in the woods? What if someone tries to hurt you? You have to be ready. The aliens realized that Earth must be so dangerous that every person had to be trained like a warrior just to stay alive. Even this Jake, who claimed to be a peaceful plant scientist, talked about being ready to fight at any moment. Jake, said Veltar quietly, how strong are you compared to other humans? Jake shrugged. Pretty average, I guess. I work out sometimes and I go hiking, but I'm not super strong or anything. There are lots of people much stronger than me. The aliens felt sick. Jake was average? They had seen how fast he moved, how alert he was, how casually he talked about weapons and danger. If he was average, what were the strong humans like? Are there humans who are trained specifically for fighting? Asked Kolran. Oh yeah, soldiers and special forces. Those guys are incredible. They can do things that would amaze you. But there are also athletes who are super strong and fast, and martial arts masters who have trained their whole lives. Captain Zexhai looked around the table at his crew. They all had the same expression of fear and worry. They had not rescued a lost traveler. They had brought aboard a member of a species of natural-born killers, a species that had been at war for thousands of years and taught their children to fight from birth. And this Jake Morrison claimed he was just average. The aliens were beginning to understand that they might have made a terrible mistake. They had invited a monster onto their ship, and he was just the beginning. Somewhere out there in space was a world full of 8 billion more just like him. The meeting ended quietly, with everyone afraid to ask any more questions. They had learned enough, perhaps too much. 3 days after the meeting, the first incident happened. Jake was in the dining area eating breakfast when red lights started flashing all over the ship. A loud alarm filled the air. Hull breach in Section 7, came the voice over the ship's speakers. All crew members move away from Section 7 immediately. Jake looked up from his food and saw all the aliens running in the opposite direction. Their faces showed pure panic as they rushed toward the safe areas of the ship. But Jake did something that shocked everyone who saw it. He ran toward the danger. Wait, called Veltar as he saw Jake running down the hallway. You are going the wrong way. But Jake did not stop. He reached Section 7 and found a small hole in the ship's wall where a piece of space rock had hit them. Air was rushing out into space. 2 young alien crew members were trapped on the wrong side of the emergency doors. Without thinking, Jake grabbed an emergency patch kit from the wall. He pressed himself against the hull near the hole, fighting against the rushing air that tried to pull him out into space. The 2 trapped aliens watched in terror as this human creature risked his life to save them. Jake sealed the hole quickly and helped the 2 aliens get to safety. When the emergency was over, the whole crew stared at him like he was insane. Why did you run toward the danger? Asked Captain Zexhai. Jake looked confused. Because people needed help. That is what you do in an emergency. But you could have died, said Lyranus. Maybe, Jake said with a shrug. But those 2 would have died for sure if nobody helped them. The aliens could not understand this. On their worlds, when there was danger, everyone ran away and waited for trained emergency teams. But this human had run toward death without even thinking about it. To them, it seemed like Jake had no fear at all, or that he was so sure he could survive anything that danger meant nothing to him. The second incident happened a week later. The ship's gravity generator broke down during the night shift. Suddenly, everything and everyone started floating in zero gravity. Most of the alien crew panicked. They had grown up on worlds with normal gravity and did not know how to move when there was none. They floated helplessly, bumping into walls and each other, unable to control where they went. But Jake adapted to zero gravity like he had been born in space. He pushed off walls smoothly and moved through the floating corridors, like he was swimming through water. While the aliens struggled and cried for help, Jake moved from room to room, helping them get to safe places and showing them how to move without hurting themselves. How do you know how to do this? Asked Engineer Kolran as Jake helped him reach a handhold. We train for this stuff, Jake said simply. Every astronaut learns how to work in zero gravity. It is not that hard once you get used to it. All humans learn this? Colran asked with wide eyes. Anyone who wants to work in space does, Jake replied. We have training centers where people practice underwater or in special rooms that simulate zero gravity. The aliens watched Jake move through their ship like he owned it. He was calm, efficient, and completely in control while they could barely function. To them, it looked like humans were built for space combat, trained from birth to fight in any environment. The third incident was the worst one. A few days later, Jake offered to help with some maintenance work. The crew was nervous about letting him near their equipment, but they needed the help. I used to fix machines back home, Jake said. Maybe I can help with your engine problems. They let him look at some of the smaller systems first. Jake studied their technology for a few minutes, then started making adjustments. His hands moved quickly and surely like he understood their alien machines perfectly. How do you know our technology? Asked the chief engineer, a Zenthari named Mordan. It is not that different from human machines, Jake said. Engines, computers are computers. The basics are the same everywhere. This terrified the aliens even more. Not only was Jake physically dangerous, but he could understand and repair their technology after just looking at it for a few minutes. What if he was learning about their systems so he could report back to other humans? But the real shock came when Jake offered to show them some basic human self-defense moves. I am not an expert or anything, Jake said, but I know a little martial arts. Maybe it would be useful for your security teams to learn. Captain ZXHY agreed, thinking it might help them understand human capabilities better. They gathered in the ship's exercise room to watch. Jake moved to the center of the room and took a simple fighting stance. This is just basic stuff, he said. Nothing fancy. Then he began to demonstrate. Even though Jake was moving slowly and carefully, showing each technique step by step, the aliens were horrified by what they saw. His punches moved through the air with deadly precision. His kicks were fast and powerful. When he showed a simple throw using one of the security officers as a volunteer, he lifted the much larger alien and put him gently on the ground with perfect control. This is basic, whispered Veltar. Yeah, Jake said. This is what kids learn. In martial arts classes, the real masters can do things that look like magic. Jake demonstrated a few more moves, always slowly and carefully. He showed how to break free if someone grabbed you, how to defend against an attack, how to use an opponent's strength against them. Every movement was smooth and deadly, even at slow speed. When Jake picked up a practice sword to show some weapon techniques, several aliens left the room. They could not watch anymore. The sword moved in Jake's hands like it was part of his body. He cut through the air with perfect form, each strike flowing into the next. Even though he was not hitting anything, the aliens could see the death in every movement. Where did you learn this? Asked Colran, his voice shaking. High school mostly, Jake said. We had a good martial arts program. I kept practicing in college and after. It is good exercise and helps you stay calm under pressure. High school? The aliens realized that human children were taught these deadly skills as part of their normal education. What kind of species needed to teach warfare to their young? After the demonstration, Jake thanked everyone and went back to his quarters. The alien stayed in the exercise room, staring at the practice dummy Jake had used to show his punches. The dummy was made of tough material that could handle impacts from their strongest warriors. Jake's gentle demonstration punches had left deep dents in it. He was holding back, said Colran quietly. He was trying not to break it. If that was him holding back, said Lyranus, what would his real fighting look like? Nobody wanted to answer that question. That night, the crew gathered to discuss what they had learned. Jake Morrison seemed like a nice person, but everything about him suggested he was a living weapon. He ran toward danger instead of away from it. He adapted to any situation instantly. He understood their technology and could repair it easily. He moved like a trained killer even when he was trying to be gentle, and he claimed he was just average. We need to contact other ships, said Captain ZXHY. We need to warn them about what we have found. What do we tell them? asked Veltar. Captain Zexhai looked toward Jake's quarters. We tell them that we have met a species of monsters, and there are 8 billion more of them out there. The aliens no longer saw Jake as a lost traveler they had rescued. They saw him as the first scout of an invasion force, sent to learn about their weaknesses before the real attack began. They were more afraid of Jake Morrison than they had ever been of anything in their lives. Captain Zexhai sent a message through subspace to other ships in the area. The message was marked as urgent and confidential. We have made contact with a new species called humans, he wrote. This species is extremely dangerous. They come from a death world with 8 billion inhabitants. They are natural warriors trained from childhood. Do not approach them alone. We recommend extreme caution. The message spread quickly from ship to ship, station to station. Each time someone told the story, it grew bigger and scarier. On the trading station Deep Hollow, Captain Vexra read the message to her crew. I heard they found a human monster, she said. It can survive in space without a suit and kill with its bare hands. The story changed as it traveled. By the time it reached the mining colony on Xerion Prime, people were saying that humans were 10 feet tall with metal teeth and claws like razors. On the research station Bright Star, Dr. Quindal studied the reports with growing fear. According to this data, he told his colleagues, humans have been fighting wars for over 1,000 years. Their entire planet is a military training ground. Commander Ruth Hayes was 3 days away from the Starbound Unity when she picked up the strange transmissions. Ruth was the captain of a human colony ship called the New Horizon. She had been traveling to establish a new farming settlement when her communications officer brought her the alien messages. Captain, said communications officer Danny Foster, you need to hear this. Someone out there is talking about humans, and they sound really scared. Ruth listened to the translated messages with growing confusion and worry. The aliens were describing humans like they were monsters from a nightmare. They talked about death worlds and natural warriors and trained killers. They found Jake Morrison, Ruth realized. Jake had been missing for 6 months after his ship broke down. Everyone thought he was dead. Should we contact them? Asked Danny. Ruth thought about it. These aliens seemed terrified of humans, but they had not hurt Jake. Maybe she could help clear up the misunderstanding. Set course for their ship, Ruth ordered, and send them a message. Tell them we are coming to talk. When Captain Zexhai received Ruth's message, panic spread through his ship like fire. More humans are coming, he announced to his crew. A whole ship full of them. How many? Asked Veltar, his voice shaking. The message says they have a crew of 40 humans. The alien crew could barely handle one. What would they do with 40? Maybe they are coming to rescue their scout, suggested Lyranus. Or to attack us, said Colron. Maybe Jake was sent to learn our weaknesses. Captain Zexhai made a difficult decision. Send messages to all nearby ships. Tell them we may need help. If these humans attack us, we want other ships to know what happened. Jake was in the garden area when he heard about the approaching human ship. He was helping tend some of the plants there, something that had surprised the aliens. How could a trained killer be so gentle with flowers? Jake, said Veltar nervously. We received a message from other humans. They are coming here. Jake's face lit up with joy. Really? That is wonderful. I have been hoping someone would find me. You are happy about this? Asked Veltar. Of course. I have been away from other humans for months. I miss talking to people from home. Veltar could not understand Jake's reaction. If Jake was a scout sent to study their weaknesses, would he not be more secretive about his mission? 2 days later, the New Horizon arrived. The alien crew watched their screens with terror as the human ship approached. It was bigger than their ship, with sleek lines and powerful engines. To the aliens, it looked like a warship built for battle. Ruth's ship had strong shields and advanced weapons, but only because space was dangerous. Pirates, asteroids, and other hazards made it necessary for any deep spaceship to be well protected. The aliens did not know this. To them, it looked like a military vessel designed for conquest. They are requesting permission to dock, reported. The communications officer, Captain Zexhai, felt sick. If he said no, the humans might attack. If he said yes, he was inviting 40 monsters onto his ship. Let them dock, he decided. But have all security teams ready. Ruth brought only 5 crew members with her when she boarded the Starbound Unity. She wanted to keep things calm and peaceful. But even this small group terrified the aliens. Ruth was tall and strong, with short gray hair and intelligent eyes. She moved with the confidence of someone who had commanded ships for 20 years. Behind her came Engineer Pete Wilson, Medical Officer Amy Chen, Security Chief Carlos Rodriguez, and Communications Officer Danny Foster. To the aliens, they all looked like trained soldiers. Ruth's confident bearing seemed like military command, presence. Pete's tool belt looked like weapons equipment. Amy's medical bag seemed like it might contain combat drugs. Carlos's alert posture looked like he was ready for battle. Danny's communication device looked like military surveillance. Gear, I am Commander Ruth Hayes, Ruth said when she met Captain ZXHY. Thank you for rescuing Jake Morrison. You are welcome, Captain ZXHY replied carefully. Jake has been educational. Ruth noticed how nervous the aliens seemed. They kept their distance and watched her crew like they expected an attack at any moment. Is everything all right? Ruth asked. You seem worried. We are learning about humans, said Lyranis. Jake has told us many interesting things about your species. Ruth smiled. Jake is a good man. I hope he has not been any trouble. Trouble? The aliens looked at each other. Jake had not caused problems, but he had scared them more than anything in their lives. Commander Hayes, said Captain ZXHY slowly, may I ask about your ship? It seems very advanced. The New Horizon? She is just a standard colony ship. We are farmers mostly. We are going to start a new agricultural settlement. Farmers? The aliens could not believe it. This ship looked like it could destroy a space station, and the crew looked like elite warriors. But they claimed to be farmers? What kind of weapons does your ship carry? Asked Colron. Standard defensive systems, Ruth replied. Particle cannons, missile arrays, point defense lasers, nothing special. Just enough to protect ourselves from pirates or space debris. Nothing special. The weapons Ruth described casually were more powerful than anything the aliens had ever seen on a civilian ship. How many people live on your colony ships? Asked Feltar. This one carries about 2,000 colonists in cryosleep, Ruth said, plus the 40 crew members who are awake. 2,000 humans on one ship. The aliens felt dizzy thinking about it. Are they all like Jake? Asked Lyranis. Ruth laughed. Jake? He is pretty typical. Good person, hard worker, knows his stuff about plants. Why do you ask? Pretty typical. The aliens remembered Jake running toward danger, adapting to zero gravity instantly, demonstrating deadly fighting techniques like they were simple exercises. If Jake was typical, what were the unusual humans like? Commander, said Captain ZXHY, how many ships like yours are there? Colony ships? Hundreds, I think. Maybe thousands by now. Humanity is spreading out to lots of new worlds. Hundreds of ships. Thousands of ships. Each one carrying thousands of humans. The aliens realized they were looking at an invasion force beyond their worst nightmares. But Ruth and her crew seemed so friendly and normal. They talked about farming and building homes and growing food for their families. How could these seemingly nice people be part of a massive military expansion? We should go see Jake, Ruth said. I bet he is excited to see other humans. As they walked through the ship, Ruth's crew looked around with professional interest. Pete studied the alien technology with the eye of an experienced engineer. Amy observed the aliens' biology with medical curiosity. Carlos noted the ship's layout and security measures out of habit. Danny listened to the alien conversations, trying to understand their language better. To the aliens, it looked like a military team gathering intelligence for an invasion. They were cataloging weaknesses, studying defenses, and preparing for conquest. When they reached Jake, he ran forward and hugged Ruth with obvious joy. Ruth, I am so glad to see you. We thought you were dead, Ruth said, hugging him back. What happened? As Jake told his story, the alien crew watched in growing horror. These humans showed genuine care for each other. They were not cold military robots. They were a tight-knit community that looked after their own. That made them even more dangerous. A species that combined deadly abilities with strong loyalty would be unstoppable in war. They would fight harder and sacrifice more for each other than any enemy could imagine. Captain HFY realized that humanity was not just a military threat. They were something much worse. They were a species of natural warriors who genuinely cared about each other. The galaxy was about to change, and there was nothing anyone could do to stop it. 3 days after Ruth arrived, Jake asked to speak privately with Captain HFY. The captain was nervous about being alone with the human, but he agreed. They met in a small conference room with just the two of them. "Captain," Jake said quietly, "I can see that my presence here makes everyone uncomfortable. I want to understand why." Captain HFY looked at Jake carefully. The human seemed genuinely confused and a little sad. "You frighten us," the captain admitted. "But why?" Jake asked. "I have tried to be helpful and friendly. I have not hurt anyone." "That is true," said Captain HFY. "But everything about you suggests you are a weapon designed for war." Jake sat back in his chair looking shocked. "A weapon?" "Captain, I study plants. I help people grow food. How does that make me a weapon?" "You run toward danger instead of away from it. You adapt to any situation instantly. You know how to fight and use weapons. You understand our technology after seeing it once. Your whole species has been at war for thousands of years." Jake was quiet for a long moment. Then he nodded slowly. "I think I understand now. You see all the dangerous things about humans, but you do not see why we learned to do those things." "Tell me," said Captain HFY. Jake looked out the small window at the stars. "Captain, do you have family?" "Yes, a mate and 2 children on my home world." "What would you do to protect them?" "Anything," Captain HFY said without hesitation. "That is why humans learn to be strong," Jake said. "Not because we love violence, but because we love each other." Jake leaned forward, his voice becoming warmer. "Let me tell you about my grandmother, Betty. She was the kindest person I ever knew. She taught me to grow vegetables in her garden. When I was scared of thunderstorms, she would sit with me and tell me stories until I fell asleep." Captain HFY listened, surprised by the gentle tone in Jake's voice. "Betty lived through hard times," Jake continued. "Wars, famines, natural disasters. She learned to be tough because she had to protect her family, but she used that toughness to take care of people, not to hurt them." Jake smiled as he remembered. "She always said that being strong was only good if you used your strength to help others. She fed hungry neighbors during bad times. She helped sick people get better. She taught children to be kind." "Your grandmother sounds like a good person," said Captain HFY. "She was. And she taught me that human strength comes from love, not hate. We learn to survive dangerous things because we want to protect the people we care about." Jake told the captain about his friend Carlos, who helped him through difficult times in school, about his sister Lisa, who always believed in his dreams, even when others laughed at them, about his neighbor Carl, who taught him to fix engines and helped him build things. "You see, Captain," Jake said, "humans do not learn to fight because we want to conquer others. We learn to fight because we want to protect our families, our friends, our homes. Everything we do comes from caring about each other." Captain HFY began to see Jake differently. This was not a cold warrior talking about military tactics. This was someone who loved his family and wanted to keep them safe. Before Captain HFY could respond, alarms started ringing throughout the ship. Emergency lights flashed red as the voice came over the speakers. "Distress signal detected. Ship in critical danger in the Razor Belt asteroid field. Requesting immediate assistance." Captain HFY ran to the bridge with Jake following close, behind. The crew was already there looking at the screens with worry. "What is the situation?" asked the captain. "A small transport ship is trapped in the asteroid field," reported Lyranis. "Their engines failed and they are drifting toward the large asteroids. They have 20 people aboard, including children." Can we reach them safely? Asked Captain Zexhai. It would be very dangerous, said Kolran. The asteroids move unpredictably. We could lose our ship trying to save them. The crew looked at each other uncertainly. They all wanted to help, but the risk was enormous. One wrong move in the asteroid field would destroy their ship and kill everyone aboard. Are there people in danger? Jake asked quietly. Yes, said Captain Zexhai. But the rescue would be extremely risky. Jake did not hesitate. Then we have to try. The alien crew stared at him. Here was the proof they had been looking for. While they debated the risks and dangers, Jake simply wanted to help people who needed it. I can pilot a rescue shuttle, Jake said. I have experience flying in dangerous conditions. Jake, you could die, said Veltar. Those 20 people will definitely die if we do nothing, Jake replied, including children. Commander Ruth joined them on the bridge. When she heard about the situation, she immediately volunteered to help. The New Horizon has better shields, she said. We can get closer to the asteroids. You would risk your ship and crew for strangers? Asked Captain Zexhai. Of course, Ruth said, looking surprised by the question. That is what you do when people need help. Captain Zexhai made his decision. We will attempt the rescue. Jake, you and Commander Hayes will work with our crew. The rescue took 4 hours. Jake piloted a shuttle through the dangerous asteroid field, while Ruth coordinated from her ship. Veltar and Lyranus worked together to guide them safely to the trapped vessel. Jake moved through the asteroid field with skill and courage, dodging massive rocks while staying focused on the people who needed help. When he reached the damaged ship, he worked quickly to transfer the 20 passengers to safety. During the rescue, Veltar watched Jake risk his life again and again to save complete strangers. He saw how Jake protected a frightened alien child, making sure the little one felt safe during the dangerous transfer. He watched Jake give up his own safety equipment to an injured passenger. Why do you do this? Veltar asked Jake as they flew back to safety. Because they needed help, Jake said simply. What other reason do you need? Lyranus worked alongside Ruth during the rescue and saw the same thing. Ruth commanded her crew with skill and care, making sure everyone stayed safe while they helped. The strangers. When the rescue was over, Ruth checked on each of the saved passengers personally, making sure they had food and medical attention. You could have ignored the distress call, Lyranus said to Ruth. We could never do that, Ruth replied. These people have families who love them. How could we let them die when we had the power to save them? After the rescue was complete, the crew of the Starbound Unity gathered to talk about what they had seen. Jake and Ruth had risked everything to save people they had never met. They did not ask for payment or recognition. They just helped because help was needed. I think I understand now, said Veltar. Jake is not a monster. He is just someone who was taught to be strong so he could protect others. All humans are like this, said Lyranus. They learn dangerous skills not to hurt people, but to help them. Captain Zexhai nodded. Jake told me that human strength comes from love, not hate. I thought he was lying. Now I see that he was telling the truth. Kolran, the military officer, spoke last. I have fought many battles, he said. I have seen real monsters and real warriors. Jake Morrison is neither. He is something much better. He is a protector. The next day, Captain Zexhai sent a new message through subspace to all the ships and stations that had heard about the dangerous humans. I must correct my earlier report, he wrote. Humans are not monsters. They are a species that learn to be strong in order to protect the people they love. They face danger not because they enjoy it, but because they refuse to let others suffer when they have the power to help. The galaxy is a safer place with humans in it. Jake became the first human ambassador to the Galactic Council. He helped create new rules for peaceful contact between humans and other species. When other aliens met humans for the first time, they were still sometimes frightened by human abilities. But they remembered Captain Zexhai's corrected report and looked deeper. They found a species that had indeed learned to survive on a dangerous world. But they also found a species that used their survival skills to help others survive too. Humans became known throughout the galaxy not as monsters or conquerors, but as the people you called when someone needed help. And whenever there was a disaster or emergency anywhere in known space, humans were always among the first to volunteer for the dangerous rescue missions. Because that is what you do when people need help.